Welcome to the InSession Film Podcast for April 27th, 2014. This is episode 62, and I'm JD Duran.
I am Lindsay Street from French Toast Sunday.
I'm Jessica, French Toast Sunday.
Yes, this week on the podcast is a first ever for our show, as we finally have more females than guys on the show. Thanks, girls, for being here. I'm glad you guys were able to come on.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you guys being here. As you guys mentioned, you have a fun little podcast that you guys have on your website. Tell us a little bit about it and where people can find you on the internet.
Again, our site is FrenchToastSunday.com, and we have the cleverly named podcast of French Toast Sunday Podcast. You can find it there. You can also find it on iTunes, and I think that's the only places you can find it. But it is very self-serving. It's a bunch of friends. We're all together in Baltimore, and we do top 3 lists every week and kind of chat about what we watched recently and generally just make fun of each other. It's very freeform, so if you're into that, then you might be into this. Lots of cursing, dirty talk.
Yeah, we're a little bit more tame compared to you guys.
Probably.
Yeah, basically just friends like shooting the shit about movies, mostly like 80% movies.
Yeah. That's a high estimate.
Yeah, it's a very fun show. What do you guys have? Like, was it 5 of you guys, 5 or 6 of you guys together?
Yeah, it totally depends on who shows up that day. That's a plate, but it's 4 of 6 of us.
Yeah, very good stuff. I would highly recommend checking it out. It's very entertaining. My co-host Blake, who has been in and out of the hospital as of lately, and he's been on the show the last few weeks out until last week. But just to update you guys, he's back in the hospital. So if you guys want to be thinking about him, he's not necessarily doing all that great, but our thoughts are definitely with Blake. But this week on the show, we are going to be reviewing The Raid 2, which I really look forward to. And going off of that, we're going to be discussing our top 3 one-on-one fights. And from there, we're going to move on to a summer movie preview, which should be a lot of fun as we're heading into May, and things will be kicking up a notch on the blockbuster level, as well as some other fun indies throughout the summer that I'm really looking forward to as well. And then we'll finish off the show as usual with films we got to see over the last week. But before we get into that, ladies, how was your guys' week?
It's been pretty busy.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Yeah, I've been a little stressed recently. Just got a lot of stuff going on. I'm trying to get... That's okay. Just trying to get my ducks in a row, as they say. I'm one of those people that feel like I can't kind of calm down until I get things checked off a list. So,
Sure.
Jess?
Yeah, I mean, just staying busy, hanging out, all that kind of stuff.
Very fun. Outside of crazy busyness schedule, one thing that really happened over this last week that was kind of fascinating is the university that I work at has a pretty nice film program, which for around here is kind of rare. But this last weekend, they held their Highbridge Film Festival, which was kind of neat. So I got to see a bunch of students that have been working on these film projects. We finally got to see all of them in one night, and they were pretty impressive for 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are learning how to make these films and put them all together. I was pretty impressed with it. So that was kind of fun and kind of made my weekend go by a lot more smoother, I think. And it was kind of neat if for Back to the Future fans out there, they had the DeLorean there from the film, was there for people to get their picture taken in and whatnot.
Did you get your picture taken?
I did not, mostly because I didn't have the time. I would have loved to, but I'm the social media director at the university, and so I was busy working the event. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty neat. I kind of wish I would have had the time to, but anyway, we have a fun show in store, and we're going to kick some butt with this Raid review, so let's get into it.
And here we go.
You're listening to the InSession Film Podcast. This is episode 61. Lindsay, Jess, can you bring me back that baseball? Can you bring it back? All right, The Raid 2 is directed by Gareth Evans and stars a whole bunch of people that I don't even want to begin to pronounce their names for the sake of butchering them. So I will skip that part. And let's just get right into it. Lindsay and Jess, what did you guys think about The Raid 2?
Okay, I'll start. I really, really enjoyed The Raid. I thought it was one of the best action movies in years. It was one of those action movies that makes you jump up and scream at television in excitement. And so I was very excited for The Raid 2, especially because there was a mass amount of hype that was being thrown around via Twitter and other people I know that had seen it.
Yeah.
So I went into it very excited. I was not disappointed. It was a little long, but I felt that it at least lived up to the fun of the first one while kind of offering a bit more story, and that was pretty interesting as well. And I kind of went away from the movie thinking how much fun that these would be watched in tandem, like in a little mini marathon. I would just watch both of them together. So those are like just my basic thoughts, if that's what you're looking for.
What do you think, Jess?
Yeah, I also had the same thoughts on The Raid. I really just enjoyed the hell out of it. And a lot of people the biggest complaint, I guess, about the first one was that there was like little to no story. To me, that didn't bother me at all. There was a thread of a story, and for what it was, didn't need to be any more in depth, in my opinion. The second movie, I loved all the action, and there was some really inventive stuff going on. The story for me, and I'm certain that part of it had to do with I was feeling very tired at the time. I wasn't really remembering like characters' faces involving with the story. So I pretty much was only focusing on like one aspect of the storyline, and like everything else I was just sort of like in one ear and out the other. So some of the scenes I was like, I'm not barely paying attention to it. I just want to get to more of the fighting.
Sure.
So I still really enjoyed it. I just maybe would have liked the storyline parsed down a little more.
Yeah, one thing that I found kind of interesting based off of what you were saying, Lindsay, especially for those that have seen the first one, that the beginning of this film pretty much more or less starts directly where the first one left off. So you really could watch them back to back and it would essentially be one long movie. I think one of the first things that I liked about the first film was the lack of narrative. I know that can be a complaint for some, but that to me was one of the best parts. It was just a bunch of action, and that's all I really needed out of that film. I really wasn't looking for much of a narrative. Where here in this one, they really tried to explain a lot of the first film, and I didn't need to know all of that. And I don't know, kind of like what you're saying, just some of those parts felt, I don't know, maybe a little bit too mundane or too dry for me. I didn't necessarily have to have all of that backstory and all these small character moments in a film like this. I could have just gone in, much like the first one, enjoyed all of the action, and walk away feeling the same as I did the first one. And with the action pieces of that, I did. I know a lot of the stuff I threw out on Twitter was just go watch this film for the last 30, 40 minutes. It's worth it just on that alone, I feel like. I don't know, maybe you guys will disagree, but to me, the story, it was okay, but there's nothing new here. There's nothing creative or something that we haven't seen before. It's basically just a bunch of corruption, more corruption, and more bad guys corrupting other bad guys. That's pretty much all the plot is, and I didn't need all that. I just wanted these guys going around doing the thing, kicking butt, and I would have been perfectly okay with that.
I can definitely see what you're saying there. To me, I think it was well done enough that it doesn't bother me. It doesn't make it feel like overly contrived. I did say the one takeaway, like the negative takeaway I had was this maybe had a few too many like slow-mo, reflective, powerful shots that I didn't need, but they were just such a minimal detractor for me because I really enjoy sort of the choreography and like stunt work that we get in the film. So the smaller moments I wasn't bothered by. I especially like Gareth Evans behind the camera. I think that with each thing he does, I'm really impressed. So I know that it's going to be one of those detractors that works better for some people versus other people. I think some people are going to respond to the fact that there's more story, and other people are going to be like, well, I don't need.
For the entire version of our podcast, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or on Stitcher, or check us out online at InSessionFilm.com.